It's the third straight season Arsenal is going to finish second in the Prem, and it's been 5 years since the last trophy. Looking at the squad and the investment they've done, it's fair to say it's been a very disappointing year for Arsenal. So what's the next step for the Gunners? I mean, looking back at this season and evaluating what they've done this season so far, I think it's very fair to say they've underperformed. I think it's very obvious to say. For me, looking back last summer, looking at the teams in the Prem, I really thought that this was the best year that Arsenal had for winning the Prem and winning other trophies. Man City, their squad was getting old. The championship window was kind of getting down. And you could see, I mean, this season that squad was getting old, more injury prone, and it wasn't as good as with last year's. And Liverpool was going to a transition from Jurgen Klopp to Arne Slot. Obviously, they kind of had easy transition that I thought would be. For me, looking back from last summer, I had a lot of expectations for Arsenal to be the best team in England, and it's very fair to say that they weren't the best team in England. They disappointed in the FA Cup, but they lost Man United, which they have won. They would go against maybe Man City, but their team was not as good this season. And other guys to the final four, I think, were Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, and Aston Villa. Guys who are very beatable for Arsenal. They lost Man United team who just haven't been good enough. And Premier League, they lost to the Liverpool team who didn't make any signings this summer, which has lost their best manager in the past couple of decades, Jurgen Klopp, and got Arne Slot, a very inexperienced coach. I don't think Liverpool played that good. I don't think Liverpool was that good of a team. I just think Arsenal wasn't good enough to compete for that race. But obviously, we also have to look at a big reason as to why this season kind of performed for them, which was injuries. If you look at the quality of the squad, you can look at our Arteta as managed the team, but their injuries were a very big reason to why Arsenal underperformed this season. And I mean, this is kind of partly due to Arsenal's fault of mismanagement's Lopez's fitness and workload. Saka has had a lot of workload over the past few years, and it was very obvious that his body's going to give up in some way or another. And other players, that's kind of the same case. Also, partially due to bad luck. It's not their fault that some players at the injuries they've had, maybe some small ones, some bigger ones like Gabriel Jesus, but they kind of also were unlucky in terms of the injuries they've gotten. Look at the players that they've missed this season. Ben White has missed around 27 games. Saka has missed 23 games. Havertz has missed around the same amount of games as Saka. Jordan McAlliance, a big piece, has missed 17 games now. So it's very obvious to see that a lot of their players are injured, and they kind of brought up a big weakness in Arsenal's team, their squad depth. With Havertz and Gabriel Jesus out injured, they're two natural strikers, let's say, because Havertz is more midfielder and Gabriel Jesus is being more and more deployed as a winger. Those two guys got uninjured and also have no one to recoup that loss. They play Mikel Merino as a striker who scored some goals, to be fair to him. He scored some goals, but if you're a team who wants to win a treble, who wants to win the Prem, you can't have Mikel Merino as your striker for, I think, half a season almost. So that, and I think Arsenal's squad depth, defensively is pretty good. Defensively, I think that's where Arsenal's squad depth is the best. But in midfield, I think they really like the squad depth. And even now, Jorginho leaving the summer, they need to make some moves around that. Partey, Rice, Odegaard, Nani can play there a bit. Jorginho can play there. But apart from those guys, don't really have anyone in the midfield they can offer squad depth. So that department is very weak. And the offense line, that's where it kind of is more catastrophic. As I put the striker position already, they had to sign Raheem Sterling on an emergency signing almost last season. I think it's proven to be quite a failure, and their wing depth just overall has not been good enough. And I think obviously injuries, the injuries obviously made Arsenal lose a lot of trophies, a lot of opportunities in Champions League and in Premier League, but also it kind of took out what we already knew Arsenal's biggest weakness was, which was the squad depth and the lack of a natural striker. Because we knew, and this has been a point of talk over, I think, the past 2 seasons. We knew coming to last summer that the lack of squad depth was a big problem for them. We knew the lack of natural 9 was a big problem for Arsenal, and however, they spent a lot of money last summer, but they still didn't really reinforce or try to fix any of the weaknesses we knew they had. They still left that striker position to be reinforced, and the same goes to the squad depth. So this summer needs to be a big one for Arsenal to really build together a well-built group, a group that's deep enough to make a title run and a Champions League run, because it's a very big season. There are a lot more games now in terms of considering the summer and Champions League getting more games and cup competitions and whatever. Football now is built a lot of availability on squad depth. The best teams are built on depth and just all aroundness as well. So Arsenal has a big summer ahead of them to make the right signings, to make the right investments, to truly make a team that next season is for sure the favorite to win the title. So Arsenal already made 2 transfers this summer. They aren't really official yet, but they are pretty much confirmed, which are Martin Mendy of Real Sociedad and Juan Garcia of Espanyol. Mendy is an amazing signing for me. As I said, near midfield, if I should Jorginho leaving, Mendy is the guy who can play number 6, number 8, and offers a lot of good passing, a lot of great offensive capabilities in terms of passing department. In the build of phase, is going to be amazing for Arsenal, and even allow Declan Rice maybe play a bit more number 8. Going to maybe allow Mikel Merino to also play number 8 a bit more, and it's a guy that also is more defensively minded than other players. I think Arsenal really liked midfield really good defensively. I think a party in that. Apart from party, is really everyone else. So many brings in a player that's also defensive minded, can really help Arsenal defensively in that midfield. And again, as I said, in terms of squad depth, that's a big reinforcement for Arsenal. For me, I think that's, Mendy is a guy that's been really sought after a player for the past year. Liverpool, Real Madrid, after him a lot. Liverpool almost had an agreement with him last summer. I think that's a very key signing. That's a very good first step for Arsenal this summer. That signs of things are going the right direction for Arsenal. If I'm talking about Juan Garcia, the goalkeeper signed from Espanyol, would not be leaving to Bournemouth because there's a loan at Arsenal this year. Arteta loves to competition in the goalkeeper spots. We know even signing Raya when they already had Ramsdale brought the competition. And I don't know really much about Juan Garcia, to be fair to you, but I did see a lot of people say that Juan Garcia will be coming to Arsenal team to be the starter. So you see a lot of competition, not really the backup goalkeeper, only playing in competition. Juan Garcia is a guy that coming to Arsenal's first team and provide a lot of competition for David Raya for his spot, and that's something that we've seen Arteta like a lot of competition in the goalkeeper position. I think that's also, again, not leaving that's no-brainer to sign a backup goalkeeper. Maybe spending, I think, like £20 million on Juan Garcia. Maybe that's a bit too much for backup goalkeeper. If Arteta likes to have competition at that position, then you have to satisfy his needs. And I'm really interested to see how Juan Garcia will play with Arsenal and what role he'll have with Arsenal as well. Now, with 2 signings already done this summer, there are need for more players coming into the squad. And for me, I think at the top of the priority list, there are 2 signings you need to make. And that is a new striker and a new winger. I think those 2 positions are the ones that Arsenal need to reinforce the most. Again, going back to the problem of squad depth, especially at the offensive line. If they have the money after these 2 signings to go and make some signings, or there are players who are available on loan who can come in and also do something for the team, then go for it and prove the squad depth even more. But I think the top priority list should be a new striker and new winger. And I'm going to make 3 options for the striker position and what they could buy to reinforce that position, and 2 options for the winger position that you can bring in and reinforce that position as well. Looking at striker options to reinforce that position, I think the first option is Alexander Isak from Newcastle United. I think it's, look at the best strikers available, or the best strikers in the world. Isak is really top 5 in both, and this, in terms of who's available to buy, Isak is really the best striker available in the market. Obviously, it has a very heavy price tag. I think it's worth around maybe £150 million. So for Arsenal, that might be way too much over what they are limited to spend, especially during all the signings they have to make. So that's why I think it's still out of reach for Arsenal in the summer transfer window. That's why I don't think he's going to be leaving Newcastle at all. But if they have the opportunity to sign him, then that's a no-brainer. He's a permanently proven player already. He's scored, I think, 15 plus goals for the past 2-3 seasons at Newcastle. He's a guy, a striker, an all-round striker who can score goals at a consistent rate, who has an amazing link-up play, who has some good dribbling, is good physically, technically as well. He offers a lot of versatility at that position for Arsenal. He offers also a lot of different ways to play with that front line. But again, the cost of him is a bit too much, and that's why he's really much a weak point. I don't think Arsenal can be able to buy him, mainly because £150 million is way too much for Arsenal to. Maybe next year, when they have all that money to just buy one guy or one star player, maybe Isak could be a guy that's available at then. But right now, even in Newcastle against Champions League football, I think it's not guaranteed, but it's pretty much guaranteed. Newcastle against Champions League football, I don't see a role Isak even leaves Newcastle this summer. But if he does, then that's a no-brainer. The second option is Viktor Gyökeres. I mean, he's a guy that can already contribute a lot to Arsenal. We know his quality. The numbers he's putting up for Sporting are amazing. Then again, he plays in a league that's not as good. He's not a Premier League proven player. He's not even played in the top 5 league before Sporting. Sporting was the first team he's played for in the top flights in football. So it kind of be a risk Arsenal will take because you know how well he will adapt to Premier League, the physicality and whatever. And I think the price tag would be around £70 million, somewhere around that, or £80 million. So it still be kind of a heavy signing in terms of money fee. But he's a guy that will come in, obviously tilted to Arsenal's front line, can play in a variety of ways. I mean, we've seen him play against Man City, score a hat-trick. We've seen him play against some good teams and still dominate. Even against Arsenal, he played really well against Arsenal in Lisbon when he played us. When he played against my team. So as a supporting fan, I know him, I see him week in, week out. I know how good he is. I know how dominant he is against defenders. I mean, there are still some games where he kind of doesn't play as well. And kind of comes down to all defenders that mark him and defenders are good enough. He's a guy that earns his matchups. If he has a defender that doesn't defend him good enough, he's going to earn that guy. He's going to chase down what he wants. And he's not going to just. And it's a guy who's a very hard worker, and he wants always more goals. We've seen numerous times where Sporting is winning 3-0, 4-0, and he still wants to score more goals. And it's a guy that in 2 seasons has scored almost 100 goals for Sporting. There's some numbers, obviously. Buying the Portuguese league has become kind of a risk recently. I mean, very much be it and me, Darwin Nunes, I think it was like the best 2 strikers from Portugal, they were signed by FTV, aren't really being hits. But the issue of signing Sporting players, really Premier League, have been all hits. Bruno Fernandes has been a massive player for Bruno, for Man United, Nani, Ronaldo. The issue of Sporting players coming into Premier League and performing well reinforces why Gyökeres should be the guy Arsenal should go towards to. If Gyökeres isn't available, then you go to our third option, which is Mensah Sescu. Now, Sescu is already a pretty good player, but the thing is still be raw. The selling point in Sescu would be his potential, what he can do for the next 2-3 years, and now what he can do right now. Obviously, he can still contribute well. He plays really well to a good enough level, but he's not a great striker any means. He still has to improve his finishing a bit. And in terms of all 3 options, I think you'll still, if he's Sescu is kind of more the raw option. I mean, in 2 years, we see a different Sescu to what we see right now. So I think Sescu would be kind of the more risky signing. Also, be the more long term, maybe the more who pays out between him and Gyökeres. But for me, I think between these 3 guys, seeing Isaac won't be available, in my opinion. So Gyökeres should be the guy Arsenal should try and sign. Now, looking at the winger position, my first option would be Nico Williams. Nico Williams is a guy that has been heavily linked to Arsenal for the past year, has been heavily linked to exit rumours from Atletico Bilbao for the past year or 2 years, and we know how good he is. He's still very young, so you can give to Arsenal for the next 8 years if he remains with the club. He's a guy that can play on both flanks. I like the guy that can play on both flanks because the squad depth on both aren't that good. Primarily, left winger will be prioritized, but if not, a winger can play on both flanks. Should be prioritized, and Nico Williams is a guy that can do that. He can play on the right, he can play on the left. He's very influential on both sides. Can offer that. Saka can offer maybe competition to starting left winger, the role of Martinelli. It's a guy that kind of similar to Martinelli in a way, a basic dribbling winger, but is way better. Not way better, but still better than Martinelli, and will offer a whole new level for Arsenal's front line. Also, the money again. I think the transfer fee will be around £60 million. I don't know what the release cost is. But I think like Bilbao would be willing to sell him around £60-70 million. But I think the main problem with him is his wage demands. He wants a lot of money. I think around £400,000 per week, which is a lot for a guy of his age and so quality. Especially since add a down year like Bilbao this season. But if financially Arsenal can buy him, even after finalizing the 2 first moves and buying the striker, they could still available financially, that they should go for him. If not, that's the second option, which is Rodrigo, which could also be a very good signing for Arsenal. Rodrigo is very much our favorite Real Madrid. Like Glasgow yesterday, he didn't even play. I thought he preferred to give his debut to Victor Munoz, left winger, and not give Rodrigo any minutes without Glasgow. So I know Xabi Alonso's plans to with Rodrigo for next season, but I don't really see Rodrigo playing another season with Real Madrid. I think this summer, with the summer they finally leaves. And Arsenal can have the opportunity to buy him. Again, it's a guy that can play on both flanks, can replace number 9 if needed, he can play center forward. Again, another emergency option in case you don't have to play Merino against a striker. So Rodrigo is very versatile, very dynamic to also frontline because different players Martinelli and Williams is still kind of the same fast-paced winger can also has some goal-scoring instincts. So that's why you have some more dynamics. I think this type of players also likes to kind of bet on a guy that also likes to take a risk on and hasn't been the best of in favor at the club, and also love those guys who are kind of out of the club and take a risk at them. So I think if Nick Williams isn't available, Rodrigo might be the guy you need to sign. I might be more on favor to Rodrigo than Nick Williams, but I think any one of those two would be amazing signings. Finally, to cap off, I want to talk about where the situation at the club is. I don't think there should be a world or that gets sacked this summer, mainly because he's been the guy who has built this project and his team as to all good they are right now. The players know him, the players love him, I think the fans even love him. So in terms of that position, I don't think why he's in my position. And obviously, they're not a good enough manager, not even a half good enough manager to replace Arteta in the market. They've gone such a recoup Real Madrid in the past hours, so they're not in a good enough manager to replace him in Arsenal's job. So he has to be a guy. Maybe if he gets one more season and we look at another disappointing season, and issues that don't play a part in that disappointing season, then that's some conversation to be had about if he deserves this spot, if he needs to be sacked. But if not, but then I don't see what's the need to sack him this summer is. I see the people call for his head and be sacked. Doesn't make any sense. I think that needs to continue at Arsenal due to all circumstances.